Hi boys and girls. I am going to review topic 7 in this video so that you can watch it as you are studying for your assessment. So there were 7 lessons within this unit. I'll briefly discuss each of them to help you study. In 7-1, that was the first unit we talked about. We talked about dividing by multiples of 10. 10, 100, 1,000. When we are dividing by 10, 100, or 1,000, we move the decimal to the left, however many zeros there are. So for something that we are dividing by 10, we would move the decimal to the left once because there's 1 0, twice if we're dividing by 100, and 3 times if we're dividing by 1,000. So if I had something like 86.6 divided by 10, I have 1 0, so I'm moving my decimal point to the left once to get my final answer of 8.66. Your number should be getting smaller because you're dividing by 10. So if you move it to the right, your number is getting bigger. So make sure you're moving the decimal to the left. Another example would be something like 192.5 divided by 100. Because there's 2 zeros here, I need to move the decimal point to the left 2 times to get my final answer of 1.925. The next topic or section in this topic was 7-2, which had to do with estimating decimal quotients. So that would be something like 48 divided by 3.2. When we have whole numbers or numbers that are greater than 1, so this is a whole number and over here I have a number greater than 1, all I need to do is change both of these numbers to easy whole numbers. So I'm going to change the 3.2 to a 3. We always start with this. So I know I need something with a 6 in it. Maybe it's 0.6, maybe it's 60. I'm not sure yet, but I know it has to have a 6 in there. So I'm going to pretend the answer is 6 and go back and multiply. 6 times 0.3. And if it is 6, I should get 0.18, my dividend. However, when I do this, I get 18 with 1 digit after the decimal point, 1.8. So I needed 0.18 and I got 1.8. So I'm going to move my decimal to the left once to get the number I was trying to get, 0.18. So in my 6, I need to move my decimal point to the left once to get my final estimate of 0.6. Okay, boys and girls, the next topic that we talked about was 7-3. 7-3 had to do with number sense. So that's when we talked about where the decimal point would go in the quotient of different problems based on our reasoning and using estimates and things like that. So if I had something like 7.8 divided by 0.28, I could use an estimate to figure out where the decimal point should go in this answer, 280. Okay, so remember when we're estimating, like I talked about just a little bit ago here, we always start with the second number, the divisor. Okay, this is close to 0.3, so now I'm going to change 7.8 into something that 3 can go into, and right off the bat, 9 comes to mind. So I picked 9, and I'm going to divide. 9 divided by 3 is 3. I need to figure out where the decimal point goes, though, in this 3 over here, because 3 times 0.3, I'm multiplying backwards, equals 0.9. That's too small. So I need to make my answer 10 times bigger to get 9. So my estimate is 30. So using my estimate, the closest way I can get something close to 30 with 280 is to put my decimal point here and have 28.0. 28 is close to 30, so that would make the most sense. Okay, so that was number sense. Basically, with number sense, you just need to use estimation in order to figure out what's a reasonable answer, what makes sense. Okay, that's what number sense talks about. 7-4, 7-5, and 7-6, we're all using the algorithm. Okay, so I'm going to show you some examples of each of these 3 types of problems, or 3 lessons, I suppose. Okay, so 7-4 was when we were dividing by a whole number. Okay, so that would be something like 42 22.78 divided by 3. So what we did for this is we first wrote it up and down like this, and then I just pretended it was whole numbers. We can have a decimal inside our little house here, but we cannot have one on the outside. Since I have the whole 3 over here on the outside, I'm good to go. So then I just divide like I would with whole numbers. 3 goes into 4 one time. With 1 left over, I'm going to bring down my 2. 3 goes into 12 exactly 4 times with nothing left over. I'll bring down my 7. 3 goes into 7 2 times, which is 6, so I have 1 left over. And 3 goes into 18 6 times. I bring my decimal point straight up from where it was down here, and my answer is 14.26. So when you're dividing by a whole number and the whole number is on the outside, just pretend that your number inside your dividend is a whole number. Divide like you would and then bring the decimal point straight up. You just need to make sure that you line your numbers up nicely in order to make sure that you put it in the right spot in the end. Okay. Then we had in 7-5, we were dividing by a decimal. Okay, so this is where we needed to do some to make some changes to our numbers on the outside there. So if I had something like 135 divided by 0.6, I am going to first write it up and down like this. Okay, and I cannot have a decimal on the outside. Remember, we thought about it like this is our little house right here. Okay, and decimals are so tiny that it's super cold outside, so we can't have the decimal outside. Decimals can only be inside the house where it's nice and warm, so I need to move my decimal to the right once to get rid of it. And so I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to move my decimal to the right once, and I fill in that blank spot with a 0. So now I just have 6 and 1350, 1,350 inside the little house there. So then I can divide just like normal long division. 6 can't go into 1, but it goes into 13 twice. With 1 left over, I'll bring down my 5. 6 goes into 15 twice. Again, that's 12, so I have 3 left. And 6 goes into 30 exactly 5 times. So my answer is 225. I don't need to change anything about that answer. Then finally in 7-6, we had a decimal inside the house and outside the house. So that would be something like 8.4 divided by 0.03. So I'm going to set it up like this, and I'm only worried about the decimal on the outside because I can have a decimal inside my little house, but not outside. So I need to move it to the right twice to get rid of that. So I need to do the same thing to the inside. So I have 840, and now just a whole 3. Now I can divide like normal long division. 3 goes into 8 2 times, which is 6. So I have 2 left. 3 goes into 24 8 times, which is exactly 24. And I have none left. When I bring down my 0, 3 cannot go into 0, so I get my final answer of 280. Last but not least topic, 7-7, which had to do with problem solving. So the big thing here is that you'll have multi-step problems, and you'll need to find the hidden question. So I'm going to go over one that is similar to what you had on the study guide. So if a developer has 34 acres of land, okay, and they're going to use 1.8, let's say, acres for the entrance. And with the land that's left, the developer is going to divide it up into plots of land that are 0.5 acres for a house. So I want to know how many houses can I build on this land. I'm going to draw myself a little picture. Here's the picture of all my land, which is 34 acres. Okay, And let's say the entrance is over here in the corner. This is 1.8 acres, okay? And then with all this shaded part, I'm going to make little plots of land for houses, and each house is 0.5 acres. So 0.5, 0.5, on and on and on. So I want to know how many of these little 0.5 acre boxes I can make, okay? So the first thing that I need to do is figure out how much this shaded in blue part is. How much do I have left after I take away 1.8 acres for my entrance? That's what I'm figuring out right now. So let's see here. It looks like after my entrance, I have 32.2 acres left. Okay. Now with that part that's left, I'm splitting it up, and splitting up tells me I'm going to be dividing what I have left. Whoops, that should be 32.2 divided by 0.5. I'm splitting it up into little pieces of land that are 0.5 acres each. So I'm going to go ahead and write this out as a division problem like this. I need to move my decimal to the right once on the outside and on the inside. So now I'll have 5 and 322. 5 cannot go into 3. It goes into 32 6 times with 2 left over. It goes into 22 4 times with 2 left over. So when we get to this point and we're kind of stuck, I can't have a remainder. So I need to, So I need to add a 0.0 since I can't have a remainder. Okay, so now I'll bring down that 0, and 5 goes into 24 times. Need to bring my decimal point up. So my final answer is 64.4. So he can make 64.4 lots for houses. So he can make 64 whole lots, or if they're okay with having a decimal in the answer, it'd be 64.4 lots. Now, if it were to ask me what is the hidden question, well, what did I have to do before I found out how many houses he can build on this land? First, I had to do this. I had to do some subtraction, right? So my hidden question would have to do with this 32.2. In the problem, 32.2 is the amount of shaded in blue land over here, right? It's the amount of land without the entrance. So I could write as my hidden question, how much land is left how much land is left after the entrance is built? I'm not sure if I have enough room to write that. Let me bring this all up. After the entrance is built. There will be one just like this on the test, and you'll need to know how to write the hidden question. So make sure you look this over. I hope that this review helps, and it helps you study dividing decimals and study for your test. Look it over a couple times and do some practice problems if you need to study a little bit more. Have a good night.